Hey everybody, good evening and welcome to IncrediChat once again. Sorry we're running a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties getting on tonight, but hey, this is the world that we live in right now. So yeah, we're just going with that, but we're still going to go for an hour tonight, so that'll be cool. Tonight, as you may have seen, we've got a wonderful, wonderful special guest star, a legend in the world of animation, which I'm very excited about. I was just showing him backstage. I brought out a couple of my favorite characters. Hey, Joe Ryan, you're going to love tonight. I got George Jetson, Top Cat, and this holiday classic, Santa and the Three Bears. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our special guest this evening, the legendary Tony Benedict. Hello, Tony. Welcome. Hey. How is everything going tonight, Tony?
So far, it goes so good, but it's been so hot here. I saw a dog chasing a cat, and they were both walking.
That sounds like something right out of a cartoon, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Tony, like I was saying before, this is exciting because you've worked for some of like the best known animation studios and on some of like the best known properties of like all time. So I guess what we do on IncrediChat always is start talking a little bit about how you got started in the business. Now I know you worked at Disney. Is that where you initially started?
That's where I began. It's one of the best ways to get into the industry was to have a relative. My brother worked as an assistant animator at Disney, and I was in the Marine Corps just about ready to be discharged. And I sent my drawings to Hal Sutherland. Do you know that name? He founded with Bluesheimer Filmworks.
There you go.
Yeah. Hal gave my drawings to Andy Ingman, and that got me an appointment. And I drove out to California in my 1949 Studebaker, no air conditioning, across the desert, and I arrived at the Disney lot. And what a transition from the Marine Corps to Walt Disney Studio. It was like the difference between a chicken shit and chicken salad. So, but it was a beautiful spot. That's when they were just beginning Sleeping Beauty, and I was hired, but while they were waiting for a training opening, I had a job running mail around the lot. And Walt's office was on my daily route. And one day I brought in a photograph to his secretary and asked her if she would take it in and get him to sign it. She was very cool and brought it out to me. It was in an envelope, and I took it home very happy until I got home and I noticed it wasn't signed by Walt. It was signed by Walt, but he signed it on the dark part of the photograph when there was a lot of white space available and you can barely read his name. So the next day I was audacious enough to ask her to if we would do it again.
Yeah.
She just reached in there and pulled out a photograph signed by a publicist and gave that to me. But I have both photographs now. One's actually Walt and one by a publicist.
We lost you for. There you are. We lost you for Oh, there we go. We lost you for a second. So you said you have it from the Walt and you have the publicist. Now, did you ever have any interactions
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Did you have any interactions with Mr. Disney, or that was about as close as you got to meeting him? I think we're lagged just a little bit here, Tony. Can you hear me, Tony? Sorry. Sorry, folks. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulty.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
No, thank you.
We're just breaking in and out a little bit here. Are you able to hear me? Oh, there you are. Are you back? There you are. Can you hear me now? Everything okay over there?
I can't hear you, Mike.
All right. Can you hear me now? We apologize for the technical difficulties, everybody. Sorry about that. Are we doing a little bit better? Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Not to hear you.
You can hear me? No. Yes?
No.
No? I'm gonna remove you and bring you back in there. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about this, folks. We just started having a little bit of technical difficulties. We're gonna bring Tony right back in a minute. Let's just see if we can do it. Sorry. The technology of the world that we're in today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. And let's see. Are we back yet? Hello, Tony? Oh, we lost Tony. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. We will have Tony back in 1 moment. I'm just sending him a message. Let me try it now. Tony, can you hear me? Sorry, folks. Oh, there he is. Yep, you back, Tony? Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're breaking up just a little bit. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yes?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? No? Nope, no.
Cannot hear you.
Sorry, okay. Let me just try this. Sorry, folks. You're real broken up. We cannot hear. Oh, sorry. Sorry about this, folks. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. We'll be right back with Tony Benedict in a moment. Oh, can you hear me now? Oh, do we have him back? Hello? I can hear you, Mike and Tony. Yes. Oh, thank you, Joe. Can you hear me now, Tony? No? Yes? No?
Same.
A little bit?
No.
No.
No? Oh, yeah, because you're freezing up on our end here. If you have, can you wear headphones? Do you have headphones that maybe that might be helpful? Sorry about this, folks. We're just going to get this organized, and it'll be right on. All right.
Can't hear you. Can
All
hear
right, I can hear you.
noise.
Yeah, I can hear you. Let's try this. All right, can you hear me now? Or we'll put you out for a moment and see if we can't do this. All right. Let's see if. Oh. All right, let's see if he's going to join us in a minute. I apologize, folks. Just technology. it is the way of our world today. But anyways, I want to thank everybody who is popping up here. He should be back with us in a minute. So thank you, Joe Ryan, for joining us. Bob Nelson, thank you. We're gonna see if we can get headphones on there with over on Tony's team is working on that. So anyways, let's talk a little bit about what are some of your favorite cartoons that Tony worked on while we're waiting for him to come back on here. Let's just see. And sorry again about this, folks. Technology. So what are some of the favorite cartoons that you guys have of Tony's? Like you said, he worked on Sleeping Beauty. We're going to get into Hanna-Barbera. If you're a Hanna-Barbera fan, he worked on shows like Top Cat, the Jetsons, the Flintstones, a lot of those real classics. And then one of my favorites, which when I was a kid, and him and I will talk about this once we get up and running again, is the film Santa and the Three Bears. And as a kid, I really thought this was something I was a Hanna-Barbera kid myself, and I remember seeing this on the USA Cartoon Express. And this was amazing to me. I was like, wow, this is part of Yogi Bear. Top Cat, Jetsons, he created Astro. That's right, Bob. Yeah, and I mean, an amazing artist, and one of like the legends. I mean, most of those people from Hanna-Barbera are not around anymore, and it's great that we still have Tony here with us. Just give me a second here, trying to re-enter here. But Jetsons, Astro. I'm a big Top Cat fan. The Flintstones, even like, look at this stuff. Go check this out. I mean, like, they're supposed to be doing some new Flintstone stuff. I don't know. And there's all this rumor about new Jetsons things. With HBO Max being a thing now, maybe we'll see more of these shows, more of these characters reemerge. Oh, here we go. Let's see, back. And Tony, are you back with us?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Beautiful. Sorry about that. Listen, it's technology. This is the world that we live in now, right?
We never had this trouble in the Jetsons.
No, they had it organized, right? They sure did.
No passwords.
So now, you mentioned the Jetsons. We were just talking with Bob Ryan and Bob Nelson and Joe Ryan, some of the people who are with us, and there's a bunch of other people. Let's talk about it. So you've just shared before we got disconnected. You were working at Disney. You were working on Sleeping Beauty. You got the letter from Walt. I asked you, did you have any interactions with Walt, or was that about as close as you got to running into him?
That and going up in an elevator was once.
Oh, Libby.
Sorry. That's okay. So you got to go up in the elevator once with him?
Yeah.
And
I was with my mom.
Oh, okay.
But it was nothing more than a ride. Everybody was quiet. But I did get to see Walt once in a while in his office, but never interacted with him except for that one incident.
Gotcha. So now, after Sleeping Beauty, and somebody just wrote your cat was one of TC's gang that walked by.
Yeah.
So you were with Disney, you worked on Sleeping Beauty. How long were you with Disney, and then what did that transition into?
I was there about a year and a half.
Okay.
It was the best training I could get. I actually was going to art school at night, but the training at Disney was far superior. So I just let the school go.
Mm-hmm.
So from Disney, there was the usual layoff after Sleeping Beauty, and I hooked up with UPA because they were looking for well-trained, low-paid animation people.
Yeah.
Got a gig there as an assistant animator on Mr Magoo. And while I was doing that, I submitted a couple of stories to Abe Levito, who was a director there at the time. And he gave me his job as a writer right away. Got myself an office with a phone and started running Magoo's.
Wow.
There was another writer, live action writer at UPA Phil Babbitt, and he asked me if I would like to team up with him and write a Flintstone idea for Hanna-Barbera that had just showed the Flintstones.
Wow.
So
So now,
I did some drawings and writing with Phil, and bottom line was they hired me, not Phil, because I had animation training. Sorry, Phil, if you're still out there.
now I did have one question. So you said you wrote some Magoos. Now I guess there's this old urban legend, Jim Backus, who was brilliant, anyways.
Yeah.
Now, is it true that that little mumbling that Magoo would do as he would go off the screen? Is there truth to it that Jim had the tendency to throw in a few choice words or phrases, or is that just a myth that goes around there? Like they said, Jim would be a little off because I guess Jim had a very off-color sense of humor. So they said that Magoo, when that mumbling, every once in a while, he would throw a little thing in there.
Wow, this is the first I've heard about that.
Oh, really?
I have to listen a little more closely.
So yeah, now so going to Hanna-Barbera, and we have some questions now about Hanna-Barbera coming in here. And I mean the Flintstones, obviously one of Hanna-Barbera's first big shows. I mean, certainly not the only one. But one of the questions that's already coming in here are about Don Messick and Dawes Butler. Did you get to know those guys?
Yes, not so much. Dawes I knew well, and he had me over to his house, and I met all his family. We had a great meal, and I did some drawings of characters on a card that he took and had it signed by all the voice people.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
very.
He was really a sweet man. I remember one incident when Barney Rubble's voice, Mel Blanc, he was in that horrible car accident right in the middle of doing the Jetsons, the Flintstones, and there was another actor who wanted a part that Joe was going to hire, but he wanted too much money. But Dawes Butler stepped in and did Mel's voice, doing Barney Rubble until Mel recovered, and he didn't ask an extra nickel for it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And then there's a story with that is kind of when the Barney Rubble sound, the voice kind of changed, was between that time period.
Yeah, it wasn't right on, but it was better than a lot of people couldn't even do it at all.
Yeah, got you. And it's just funny that we were talking about Jim Backus. We had somebody who's watching us. Jason Merrick wrote, I guess this is a quote from Jim Backus, just going back to Magoo. He said, Jim Backus once was quoted as the best of Magoo had to be censored. So I guess in the recording booths, he must have been doing something. Nice.
Well, recording sessions were always a lot of fun. Alan Dinehart took me to a couple of over at Columbia Studios where we were recording the Flintstone.
Mm-hmm.
The entire session was more joking around and who can talk, who's joke, and they still got the script done, but they should have recorded all those gags because they were all familiar with one another. They had worked in radio, and they all had a wonderful sense of humor. I thought it was just great fun.
Yeah, and I mean, and you mentioned that too. A lot of the voice actors. This was at a time period when radio had just ended, so a lot of these actors came straight from the world of radio that didn't go over television, essentially.
Exactly. And they knew how to do voices better than live actors.
Yeah, because I mean, you mentioned Mel Blanc. Obviously, Mel Blanc. His career really was outside of the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
But
Mel was a great voice man, but if you could always hear a little bit of Mel in the different characters. But with Dawes, they were all clearly different.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it has something to be said about those particular voice actors from that time period. Like again, Dawes and Mel and Don, like they had such a repertoire of these voices. And then again, the people who do and I emphasize the word the people who do these voices now. I mean, the Looney Tunes. There is a whole team of actors who are doing the voices that this one man initially started back in the 50s and 40s, 50s, and 60s, you know, and they got a whole crew, and he did them all, which is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Bob Nelson was saying Dawes and Don were Yogi, Huck, and well, Miguel Gorilla was Alan Melvin. But and this person has all the box sets. And another person, Signe, was talking about how Dawes' Barney sounded a little bit like Yogi. You know, and I guess with the Flintstones, they were kind of going for like that Ed Norton thing. So Yogi had a little bit of Ed Norton in.
Yeah, everything was nothing is original, but what has been forgotten. They were the Flintstones were the Honeymooners. Tarkat was the Phil Silvers show, and everything was a derivative. But it worked, and we loved it. Joe was like anything that he could recognize.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you. So I mean, we know, and we've talked about this before. Again, you worked on the Jetsons, you know, and obviously when the Jetsons came out, that was like obviously the polar opposite of the Flintstones. You know, go from the Stone Age to the future, to the Stone Age to the Space Age. The Jetsons initially only lasted for one season. So that's
there were 27 episodes though.
Yeah, and you were working there at the time, because certainly that show later on in its life found new life in the 80s. Do you any idea why back in its initial run it wasn't, I guess, as much of a hit as they expected it to be?
No, it was an awful dud, that ones that were made in the 80s. I don't know why Bill and Joe let those characters get all messed up the way they did. Mm-hmm. But I suspect they had money involved where big syndicators would give them a hell of a lot of money to deliver 65 half hours. And that was, you know, a big strain. And you had to cut something. You couldn't find enough writers. Mm-hmm. People, even the right time they have it done. I was a story editor on the later Jetson. I wrote it, several of them, and boarded all my own stuff, which is which was the way it was before TV cartoons. Every writer in animation knew how to animate and draw. So that's how it was.
Yeah. I just want to say here, we have Arthur Dwyer. I hope I didn't pronounce his name, but I guess he is your nephew. So he's
that's my nephew, Art Dwyer. Wow. Hi, Art.
He says hello, Uncle Tony.
Yeah, that's great.
So thank you for joining us tonight, Art. And then we have some other comments here. The Jetsons was brilliant sci-fi comedy. Again, we have another comment from Lee about Mr. Magoo. And she writes, the backstory for Magoo says he was nearsighted. And she wants to know, but she suspects it was macular degeneration. When you worked on the cartoons, how much vision do you think Mr. Magoo had?
0, 0.
0, 0.
That was a joke that you can run into the ground. Every joke was funny how he would mistake objects for what they weren't.
Yeah, and you know, we're talking about Magoo here, and you know, I think Magoo is one of those characters that people remember, but like he's kind of lost now. You know, like people remember, but we don't see him around. But again, you know, talking about the holidays here, that the Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, and I should have pulled that out. That is something that people cherish, and you know, in their homes. But at the outside world, that is something that should get so much more love, because that is a great version of A Christmas Carol, and that's like one of the first animated Christmas specials that was ever made too.
Yeah, there are endless animated Christmas films.
Yeah.
So many of them.
Now we have a question here about Top Cat, and this is a good thing too, because you worked on Top Cat. So it says Top Cat was only one season, and that was about 30 episodes. And in the 80s, they made the TV movie, with the Hanna-Barbera Superstars 10, Top Cat and the Beverly Hills Cats. And then there were the 2 movies that they made in Mexico. But there's another show that lasted one season. People love Top Cat, but outside of the U.S. market, Top Cat had a whole new life of his own as well. You know, so do you know anything about how that evolved even?
No, I don't. I heard there was a Top Cat feature film made in Mexico, but I've never seen it.
So here's another question from Greg Gibbs. He wants to know if you worked on any of the teenage shows, Scooby-Doo and whatever followed, and what did you think of those shows, and were you involved in how many of those?
Well, I was a comedy writer. When the studio changed hands in 1967, and a little bit before that, they made a decision to go with children's programming rather than prime time. There was more money. Syndicators were willing to just spread them, and it wasn't the same Hanna-Barbera that I came to in 1960. 60 to 67 was for me the golden age. I could write and board a storyboard, and it would get on primetime TV just about the way I wrote it. We had no storyboard editors, no advertiser input. The only person I had to please was Joe Barbera.
Now,
along fabulously.
We wanted to know if you worked on any of the teenage.
No, I had nothing to do with 1967, Scooby, teenagers, all that. Those were, to me, marketing devices more than they were creative writing.
Gotcha. Now, but actually, I wanted to ask that question now. I mean, because Joe Barbera, from what I've heard from other people I've talked to, he was quite the salesman and quite the businessman. What was it like working with him? Because Hanna-Barbera really, especially in the 60s, but going forward into like the 70s and 80s, it was a machine there. Like, what was that like? I see your posts all the time.
I was, when I first came there, Joe took me up to his home in Bel Air, beautiful place overlooking the rest of the world. And we sat around his pool and we wrote Operation Barney. The first story I ever did with Joe. And a couple of weeks later, Bill Hanna brings me down to the editing room and shows me the episode, the rough cut up, and that was the first time I ever saw my credit on the screen.
And which cartoon was that?
That was what?
What cartoon was that your first credit was on?
Flintstones. Yeah, it was the episodes. It was Operation Barney.
Operation Barney. Excellent, excellent. And then obviously you worked on a lot of like the other silly animal. I guess that you would call those the silly animal cartoons. I mean, like the Wally Gators, the Yogis, all those kinds of.
Yeah, they were fun too. I could do those pretty easily. Hokey Wolf was Phil Sivers, and Dodge did that voice better than Arnold Stang did. I think he should have been the Bilko character, or the Top Cat character.
Now let me ask: is there? So you mentioned there about Dawes doing, because I know when they did the Yogi's Art Clark in the 70s, like the premise to Yogi's Gang. Dawes did do the voice of Top Cat for like a few lines in that. Did Dawes initially audition, do you know, for the role of Top Cat, or were Bill and Joe specifically looking for like a character actor like Arnold Stang to do that voice? Like,
well, Top Cat characters, well, it did Barney when Mel got, but I guess he wasn't one of the other in the Top Cat gang.
mm-hmm. Yeah, because they had, I mean, outside of John Stevenson, you had in Top Cat, I mean, you had Arnold Stang. What the heck? I can't. Maurice Gosfield was Benny. John Stevenson was he was Fancy. And then Leo DeLion, who's still around too. I just actually got a 45 of some of his jazz music from his son. But he did The Brain and Spook, which were great.
Leo DeLion.
What's that?
Leo DeLion.
Leo DeLion. Yeah. I like I said, right before the holidays, I got a 45. His son had found some of his jazz music. Speaking about voice actors, we have some other questions about them. They want some people would like to know what kind, if you worked with Paul Winchell and Janet Waldo.
Yeah, Janet Waldo. When I was a young teenager, there was a radio show called Corliss Archer.
Okay.
Where she was a teenager. And I would listen to that show, and I just fell in love with her without ever seeing her. And at Hanna-Barbera, Alan Darnhart introduced me to her. And I had a physical reaction. It's a sweetheart.
And I just want to say, Arthur is saying the Benedict family from Massachusetts says hi to you. I'll put that right up here.
Well, how to all of you out here in that wonderful family of Benedicts. What a colorful group they all are.
So, and again, thank you all. Thank you again for tuning in, Benedicts. So yeah, Janet Waldo, and she had, like you're mentioning, her voice. She had that youthful voice. I mean, she passed away and she was in her 90s a couple of years ago, right? But that voice never changed.
Yeah.
It
was a sweet voice. I'll always remember it.
Yeah. So now let's talk about this. So we got into, I forget the year exactly, but into the 70s. Let's talk a little bit about this holiday classic, Santa and the Three Bears. I discovered this like they used to have this thing called the USA Cartoon Express back in like the 80s when I was growing up. And they one time showed this as like a Christmas special. And being a Hanna-Barbera fan, I mean, I was learning about all this stuff. I saw, the Ranger, and I'm like, wow, these characters look like they're right from Jellystone Park. What is the story behind this special?
Well, the story began when I submitted a script to Joe Barbera for a half-hour Christmas special.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was going to be so happy about it, but he didn't react well to it at all. It says no villain in it. I was really heartbroken. I thought sure he would go for that. And after a while, I had some private backers, and I wanted to get the film funded.
Mm-hmm.
My brother Frank was a commercial pilot up in Seattle, and he found himself flying a executive from the conglomerate up in Canada. And while he's on the plane, he told his Jetsons, I forget his name, but he told him my story about how I had written this and boarded it, and Joe Barbera turned it down, and the client Judson, he told Frank for me to come up and visit him to talk about it. So I went up to Vancouver, British Columbia, and it was late November and a little bit of snow, and I was at his house, Jetsons' house, where he introduced me to his family. We had a nice meal, and after that, it was snowing outside, the fireplace was burning, and he said to me, "Tell them your story."
Oh, wow.
And I did. I think it took me about 15 minutes. And bottom line is, I walked out of there with a check to start that movie.
Wow.
And I didn't realize it at the time that I had such creativity that I was free to do whatever I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody in the way. So that made the film very inexpensive. I made it for $250,000, $1969.
Wow.
And but when it was finished, I couldn't sell it. I went all the advertisers around, and they all passed about it. And eventually, I found a independent distributor down in Hollywood, Florida, of all places. They made two kinds of films: children's films and porn films.
Oh my God.
And this guy, Joe Shermer, was about to, he had two posters on the wall. One was like Thumbelina, beautiful, and then somebody does Dallas sex film on the same actress in both.
Oh my God.
But anyway, he gave me some money because I had taken my film to Warner's, and they were going to do it. They gave me some money, had me add more footage to it to make it to a theatrical length.
Mm-hmm.
And when I brought it back, then they said, "Okay, that's great, but we sold the company, and the new owner don't want anything to do with his film." So that's when I went down to see Shirley Shermer in his company R&S Distribution. He made 90 prints, and in 1969 or 70, I think it was,
Mm-hmm.
we released them on matinees at 50 cents and 75 cents a ticket. And the first year, it made $500,000.
So this made $500,000 in theaters.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then it went on like that for like 10 or 15 years. But the backers I had, they let it fall into public domain. So everybody had a copy of it, bootlegged, and
Yeah.
but the only thing that I got out of it was the music, as I had the music rights, and I still get royalties to this day. But that's my sad Hollywood story.
Wow. But I mean, and you know, it's definitely a legacy that you've left, because I mean, people know this. You know, I mean, I guess falling into the public domain, you know, unfortunately, like that's that's not a good thing there. But the fact that people know it, you know, and you know, and when you say, hey, I'm sure when you say, hey, this is what I worked on, people all of a sudden light up because they saw it in the theater, they saw it in syndication, they picked up a copy of it, you know, and it's been in their homes, and it's a tradition. So I'm just go a couple of questions here. Going back to this movie and another voice actor. Well, you had Hal Smith was one of he was the voice of the Ranger in this, and then Gene. We have a question about Jean Vanderpyle. What was she like to work with?
She was a perfect mom. We had two little kids, actors. She knew how to handle them perfectly. She was a sweetheart of a person, and what more can I say? She was a great voice actor, and I really thought she added so much to that film.
And I mean the softness that she played as the mother bear, the softness that she generally had in the Flintstones, that was all genuine as to who she really was as a person.
Yeah, I made the film like they made it at Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
Same styling. I had some pretty good talent on it. Ed Love actually did a scene for me, animated a beautiful scene, which because his son was an animator.
Gotcha.
And yeah, well, I was a bit disappointed with it at first because I thought it could have been much better.
Well, let me ask you. So, I mean, obviously, you did have the creative freedom when you made this film. Were there any differences in what you ended up making to what you initially pitched to Joe Barbera, or was it the same exact story?
Well, it was the same story, but it was lengthened by Warner Brothers, which
Gotcha.
was long, too long, and didn't hold of it as well. The actual 35 mil original print was called the Yellowstone Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that print, and I own that. It's a separate copyright.
Wow. Wow. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. That and $3 would get me a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
We do have another comment from your family who's watching us from Massachusetts. They wanted to know, do you remember when myself and all the cousins and family went to the movie theater when Santa and the Three Bears came out? Such a wonderful memory. And he follows that with, you were our hero. Still.
Yeah, that was so very cool. I never thought of myself as being any kind of minor celebrity, and signing autographs and that sort of thing. I haven't done much of that until recently.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, this is unfortunate. This whole situation has put a stop on a lot, you know, and you know that's why we do these things with this new kind of technology. So at least everybody's still getting out there and exposed. Let me ask you this. So certainly for anybody who's watching with us tonight, like you were doing the conventions, you were signing autographs, you were doing commissions and pictures. If somebody is interested in getting some artwork from you, what do we need to do?
Well, that's all I do right now. I take commissions, and I have been doing a Comic-Con and other shows, but they're out of it now. So
yeah,
I'm setting up a site where I can show my stuff to potential customers, and as soon as I have it ready, I'll let everyone know.
Absolutely. No, and again, that's something that we're definitely going to share out for you too as soon as you make that live, just because we want everybody to, you know, support you and support all the artists. I mean, this is a tough time for folks like yourself who, you know, do this for a living, who go out there and do artwork for a living, you know. So we have a couple of other questions here just about some Hanna-Barbera characters. We were talking about those like silly animals. They want to know, what kind of memories do you have from lesser known animal comedies, such as Breezely and Sneezely, Ricochet Rabbit, Mush Mouse, Precious Pup, or just any others? And I guess I'll add to that, were there any characters that didn't make the cut, that were left on the drawing room floor, if you will?
No, I never had any rejects from Joe, who was the only person I had to please. And I thought Wally Gator was great. Ricochet Rabbit, Peter Potamus. They were pretty cute cartoons too, but they were aimed at children. Even characters like Hokey Wolf was pretty sharp. And even though those were made for a children's market, they were still a little sharper than the stuff that's presented for kids these days, and long before that.
Gotcha. Well, you know, and that's definitely something I wanted to ask you is what do you think of the state of animation now, like the cartoons that are being made? I mean, there's so much now compared to when you were working on this stuff.
Well, the toy industry has a stranglehold on the animation TV business. The advertisers took over, and that's one of the reasons I left Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
A whole different ballgame. I was writing in humor, and there was nothing funny about Saturday morning.
Gotcha. So here's a question about a Magilla. So on a Magilla Gorilla box set, apparently there's called Magilla Gorilla box set called "Here Comes a Star." It's a behind the scenes at Hanna-Barbera, and I guess you're in it, and it's hosted by George Fenneman of You Bet Your Life fame.
Yeah, it was a stage story meeting that they shot. And it was me, Cindy, Sandifer, Alex Loby, a couple of other people, and Joe. And yeah, I got in a couple of lines with laughs.
Well, you know, and then going for the laughs now, talking about your time at Hanna-Barbera, and we can kind of see it behind you there. I know you post a lot of artwork online. I guess about the behind the scenes day to day at Hanna-Barbera. What's going on with that?
That was customary in the whole business. Disney everywhere. We all did the gags about one another. Mm-hmm. And I kept mine. And I have hundreds of them. And that's why you see posted one by one up there. Also photographs from those glory days. So I try to keep it fresh and don't rerun images until they had a good run of other ones first. So I keep those things alive. I've got a huge library of films,
wow,
illustrations, gags, caricatures, and it's all going to be in this new book that's coming out in October.
Nice. Tell us a little about that.
It's being published by Nemo Land. It's an Italian company in Florence, Italy, which is a beautiful place that never grew old. There are no traffic lights, no neon signs, no advertising. It's a beautiful city, and there's an animation school there. Mm-hmm. Nemo Land, it's called, and it's run by a great man, Luca Chiarotti. He's a great artist and a teacher and an entrepreneur. And that was a really wonderful experience. Go there. We actually got an award. In all my years in the industry, I never had an award, but I got that Nemo award from Luca and his team.
November.
Yeah, that's about a year ago.
Yeah, and I know I saw you have people follow you on Facebook. They'll see you have a bunch of photographs from when you were over there in Italy.
Yeah,
there are a couple of guys that went over there.
No, true that I haven't been able to get around to editing, but that's on the agenda.
Now, with this book that's coming out, that you said it's being published over in Italy. It's going to be available here in the United States, like on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all that good stuff.
For sure.
And I assume you'll have some available to purchase signed, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's I want to see that. I'm dying to see how it turns out. Luca is a publisher, but he puts the whole book together, and I've seen a number of his books, and he really has a wonderful way of putting it all together. He's got a super sharp eye, and he understands the business, and I'm a lucky man to have had him pick it up.
Yeah. And someone just wanted to ask, and I don't know this offhand. They wanted to know, is Ed Love still around, or did he?
Ed Love, I doubt it, but yeah, it's been a long time ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he worked on like the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh,
Back that far, so.
Gotcha. Well, again, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, Tony. It has been a true honor to have you with us on here. I mean, as I've shared, you are a legend because you worked on really the things that all of us that are watching tonight. These are all the things, and your family is a true testament to this as well. All the things that we grew up with, we have watched, and you have had your hands in, and
it's a great feeling to know that stuff is still playing after all these years.
Yeah, I mean, kids today are watching. I have a 7-year-old; he's watching it, and I guess we have another family member here that just wanted to. Karen.
It's Karen, yeah.
And she says, "Great job."
Karen.
so, I mean, yes, you are very well loved, and again, we everybody, your family, your fans, all appreciate everything that you have done in your career. So again, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and certainly reach out to Tony if you want any kind of commissions and whatnot. And when the book comes out, reach out to him, get signed copies of the book. Definitely, get some stuff from him.
And let me say hello to my dear daughter, Julie. I know she's watching. Hello, Julie. Love you. Bye. Okay.
So, all right, cool. So once again, thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who's tuning in. And again, I'm just going to put Arthur put up there an icon, truly an icon.
Thank you, Arthur.
Yes. So again, thank you, Tony. And just hold tight for a minute while we end the show, and we'll just wrap up in a minute. And again, thank you all for tuning into tonight's IncrediChat, and we will see you next week with some more great guests. Tuesday for Get in Tune, and Thursday night for IncrediChat. So once again, thank you all. Good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Mike.